Thank you, Dave. Some of you probably noticed the bow ties, and these are very much in honor of our father, and all of his grandsons are as well adorned in bow ties tonight. The other enormous aspect that we've talked about a little, but can expand on a lot more, was his dedication as a volunteer in many, many areas around Clifton Springs and otherwise. And John Galati has offered to highlight some memories of Dad as a volunteer.
Well, you always learn something new. I thought I was the only one that received those cards and notes. Well, certainly Dr. Wood was an inspiration to all of us. He was a proud man, and if he were here tonight under different circumstances, he would be providing suggestions, offering to help in any way he could, and certainly wanted to be part of the program and direct things. That was Bob. In one of his autobiographies that were alluded to, he did have 4 goals, one of which, and I'll paraphrase a little bit, he said that his goal was to render within the limits of his time and talent significant service to worthwhile endeavors. And his accomplishments of this goal certainly were evidenced by his volunteerism to many community organizations and projects actually dated back to the 1950s. Rotary, I'll begin with. Rotary is an important part of Bob's life. There was a strong Rotary legacy. His father and also uncles, many were past presidents as well as even a district governor. And Bob himself served as club president for the Plattsburgh and Clifton Springs Rotary Clubs. He was one of the founders of Camp on Siawa, which is the Rotary summer camp for children with special needs. He also volunteered to serve as the camp's medical director. He did so for 10 years of his first operation. And throughout his Rotary affiliation, he participated in many Rotary events and fundraisers, and he was also the recipient of a Paul Harris Fellow Award for his years of community service. Children, of course, were also an important focus. And in 1999, Bob and Carol were the first sponsors and lead volunteers in the Child Program. And that was based here in Clifton Springs, and it stands for Children Helped in Illness, Loss, and Death. And volunteers were trained to assist and support children and their families that were going through crisis times, especially for loss and issues of grief. The actual program lasted for 10 weeks with individual and group sessions. Bob and Carol were always the first ones to volunteer. They were the first ones there. They were the last ones to leave, brought refreshments, and even helped to clean up. In his application to be a volunteer for the program, he recorded his goal as being a volunteer, and his interest was to provide significant help to children. And during the actual sessions, Bob did help many children through their loss of a parent or a sibling. He made a difference in their lives. Another passion, of course, was the House of John. I do this periodically for special occasions. The House of John, this is a 2-bed home for terminally ill located here in Clifton Springs. And Bob and Carol were involved in the program since 1996. They volunteered providing personal care for the residents and assisted their families, and they also served on the board of directors. Bob volunteered 4 hours weekly over 14 years, and he accumulated over 4,000 hours in volunteer service. I think Bob is around these little maps keeping attention on his screen. Bob and his family are responsible for the picturesque landscaping that surrounds the home. He also donated many of his beautiful landscape, pen and ink drawings to the House of John, and in 2010, Bob and Carol were the recipients of the Bob and Carol Ann Wood Volunteer Achievement Award for their selfless service. Bob was very thoughtful to call or send a note of appreciation and recognition to staff. He also would send a kind message to the families of the residents there. Last but not least, Bob's love for his community hospital. Bob participated in the hospital's Community Connection program that offered help and education sessions for seniors. Now, Bob was very active in many things. I don't think he ever considered himself a senior. I think that was evident because we have his multicolored sweatsuits that he came to the meetings with. So there's always a spirit of hope for there. He also volunteered and participated in many hospital auxiliary functions and fundraising events, and I'm sure, Carol, you had a lot to do with that since she was a charter member of the auxiliary. In 1999, Bob came to me and asked if he could help me in any way. And I wasn't sure if that was because he liked what I was doing or he felt it was time for a change. I wasn't sure. But nevertheless, I suggested to him that we needed a volunteer greeter program, and that someone to be there in the morning as guests and visitors come into the hospital to help them direct them wherever they needed to be. And this was done in the main lobby. So he accepted the challenge and personally approached friends, colleagues, and also Rotaries for members to volunteer. He developed the training program and oriented the first group of volunteers. And in May of '99, the program started with 11 greeters, and today there are 5 still active greeters from that group. He did the schedule and even filled in and took extra shifts as someone who couldn't make their scheduled time. Now, Bob regularly was present on Fridays. Bow tie, very professional looking, sport coat or suit, and he did that at the age of 92 even. His appearance was always professional. But I always knew when he had something of interest to tell me about. He would ask me, and I would see him early in the week with Carol, they'd be about the hospital. He said, "John, are you going to come by on Friday?" I said, "I sure will." Now, he knew that I rounded every morning. The lobby was one of the first places I stopped, so I knew that he had something he'd want to share. So sure enough, I would see him on a Friday, and he would say, "John, I have a couple of things." He'd always offer a suggestion, a recommendation, whether it be we need more wheelchairs or what's happening here, what's going on with that physician's practice office, what's happening. But he'd always end with a compliment. He was something very special. As a greeter, he accumulated over 640 hours of service until he was forced to retire because of health reasons. But the greeting program certainly was part of his life, and it's something that before he left that, he did choose his successor because he wanted to make sure the program continued. So the greeter program today has 14 hospital greeters that cover the main lobby and their south entrance from 7 to 9 every morning, Monday through Friday. They're equipped only with a smile, helping hands, yet his presence will be missed, and certainly his legacy of compassionate service will live on. So earlier this year, Bob was the recipient of the Rochester Business Journal Healthcare Achievement Award in the volunteer category. This was in recognition of his volunteer spirit and community service. Unfortunately, he was in the hospital at the time and couldn't accept the award, so Carol Sweeney accepted it for him. And then following the program, we returned to Clifton Springs from Rochester, and we had our own special presentation in the main lobby with family, friends, and visitors that were present. And I think this award was really a surprise for him, and certainly it was truly deserved. And I think it's one of the things that he was very proud of, that honor. So Bob, for me, he was a true friend, a colleague, a mentor. He would always let me know if I did something well. I always knew a suggestion was forthcoming. I certainly thanked his input. Thank you. It's okay, I do this a lot. I'm second to Gail. So okay. But certainly, we've all been inspired by his professionalism, wisdom, and his insight. His humility and tireless service to others will be cherished forever. And this is for Bob. Look up. You touched our lives. Please look down on us from now and then to make sure that we live on and carry on your expectations. After all, we wouldn't speak anything less of you because your spirit will always be forever with us.
Thanks, John.